Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, which is my weekly interview show where I have somebody come on and we get to know a little bit more about their perspective on movies. And I'm welcoming back one of my best friends, Haley. So, Haley, thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here.
We have watched many movies together, particularly horror movies. And honestly, I saw one of my last movies in theaters before COVID with you when we saw Invisible Man. That was exciting.
I
And
know.
and there'll be plenty of horror movies to see come when we actually get to see each other and actually go to the movies. But, because there's always plenty. But
Perhaps too many, some might say. Too many to choose
they
from.
they do make money though. So they'll keep making them.
From me.
But this is your second time on the show, so obviously I'm not asking you the same exact questions as last time. So shaking things up a little bit here, but now, Haley, what's one previously released film you have never seen, but you really are most excited to check out?
So I'm actually really glad that you asked this question because I just went through the entire COVID pandemic, which meant that, like, I have seen every movie that I had set out to see,
Mm-hmm.
and many movies I did not set out to see. And so this was a challenge. Like, I had to do some research. And
Uh-huh.
so I ended up like looking around and looking for some movies that had been released that maybe I just like hadn't had on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to my attention that there is a movie starring Dev Patel as a medieval, like King Arthur era knight that's by A24. And the trailer had like Two Steps from Hell music in the background. Like it seemed so epic. And I'm like, what is this movie? So,
You're talking about The Green Knight.
yeah, what the heck? How did I never know about this?
So this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year
I'm embarrassed that I
because
didn't know about it.
last year, like early last year, I remember when they dropped the trailer for this because it was supposed to come out like last summer.
Oh,
And I was just like, what is this movie? I need to see
yeah.
this right now. And it got pushed back to this July. And right now, this is my number 5 film of the year.
So it's good.
Oh my God. It is insane.
Okay, world,
And
stop what you're doing and watch this trailer because what the heck is going on? I was like, either this movie's gonna suck or it's gonna be a really good movie, and I wanted it so badly to be good. So I'm so happy. I'm gonna watch it like ASAP.
oh, it's a thing to behold, to be perfectly honest. It is one of the strangest, most beautiful, and just out there movies I've ever watched. And there is so much about it that I love. And you're just like in a fever dream for 2 hours. And you're just like, how does this work? And also, it was made for like $20 million. And it looks that epic. And I'm like, how did they make this movie for like not that much money in comparison to a lot of things? This also makes me believe that most movies don't need to be $175 million.
Sure.
Um, and just the Green Knight, which is interesting is because you've seen The Witch, right?
Yeah.
It's the father from The Witch plays the Green Knight, and he just has that bellowing voice to him.
Oh, yeah,
And
like the ancient being
yes,
from the
and
trailer.
he cackles at one point, and it's terrifying. I'm like, no, oh no.
Please no.
And it's a like A24 outdid themselves this time because it's just like only there's so many movies that only they can get away with. Like Lamb's coming out.
I saw the trailer for that and I was like, I need to be in a certain mood for this because this movie's gonna mess me up.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get a screener soon and
You'll
maybe
have to
like
let me
next
know.
week. And either way, I'm going to see this. It's funny because my friend Paige, who's Jess's best friend, she'll watch like any A24 movie. She's like down.
I'm kind of that person at this point. Like, they've done enough, like, just off the wall, insane, good stuff that I'm like, I'll try it. I'll try it.
One of my
What
favorite
is this? Some people raising a lamb as a baby? Okay, yeah, let's try that. They're in
lamb
Iceland?
people.
Okay.
When we watched Hereditary together, that was a special moment.
It was. It was both special and horrible.
Oh man.
Best horror movie I've ever seen, but also not an experience I readily relive. And that's saying something.
We had this conversation, but like there's few movies that can emotionally devastate you for 2/3 of it and then be like, are you drained yet? Because here's where the real movie begins, and you're just like, no.
Now it gets scary.
I'm like, I can't defend myself from this.
Emotionally, no, not at all.
It's just like, I've been shredded to pieces already. But shifting gears a little bit with this question, so talking about something that's already come out, what's a movie that hasn't been released yet that you're most excited to see?
So up until yesterday, my answer would have been Candyman. But I went to see Candyman because I am a big fan of what Jordan Peele has been putting out. And I went to see it, so like I can't put that out there anymore. But I'd like to just say, solid movie. It's not as quite up there with like Us and Get Out, but like solid movie. I give it props.
I want to give props to Nia DaCosta, who actually directed the film and is I believe the first woman ever to lead the box office opening weekend.
Oh, really? Good
Female director. Her. So good for her.
Also kind of telling given like some of the themes in the movie.
Yes, like, because Jordan Peele helped write it. I originally thought he only produced it. I thought it was one of those things where it's like slap Jordan Peele's name on it. But like he actually did write the script along with her. But it's visually arresting. It is a creepy movie. And especially towards the end, where it just goes like out there. But anyway, what is the movie now that you're most excited to see?
I can't choose one. But I'm going to give you a couple that I'm excited about. So. Thank you. Yes, please indulge me. So I feel like there's the like typical, like there's the basic girl answer that I'm going to give, which is Kingsman, because like, come on, those movies are amazing. I love all of them. I'm pumped that another one's coming out.
Needs to come out already. That movie's been pushed back legitimately, like I think 6 or 7 times at this point.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I knew it was coming, but then I was just like, see, now I was in the theater with all the previews and it really got me like amped for some stuff. But
I have literally been watching previews for that. I feel like since like November or December 2019.
That's unfortunate because it does look like it's actually going to be really good.
It looks like it's going to be fun. Good. I'm ready.
Yeah.
December.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Finally.
So yeah, there's that one. I'm a big Wes Anderson person because you gotta like counter the horror with something, right? Yeah. And Wes Anderson's perfect. So obviously anytime something by Wes Anderson comes out, I'm there. This looks very Wes Anderson-y, The French Dispatch.
Looks unbelievably Wes Anderson-y. As I'm sitting here looking at my Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, and Life Aquatic posters on my wall. So there you go.
I am very excited.
If it weren't for No Time to Die and being such a diehard James Bond fan my whole life, French Dispatch would be number 1 right now for the rest of the year for me.
That says something. I mean, obviously, I'll probably go to see that because I just purely out of I'm loyal to Daniel Craig as an actor in general. Yes. I like him as an actor. And so James Bond's like his like big mainstream deal, but he's a great actor regardless, and I support him. So you can add that to the list of things that are interesting. And then, so there's one movie that I did not know existed at all, but then I saw a completely bonkers trailer for it. Titan,
Oh my
I
God.
think is how it's
It comes out this Friday.
like ASAP. And I'm like, what did I just watch? Also, how could a trailer be so uninformative and also so riveting? Like, I
Right?
really, really, really want to see that
What's this
movie.
movie about? I don't know. Do I want to
I'm
see it?
going.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because it
exactly.
it won, if I'm not mistaken, it won at Cannes.
I think I saw some, because you know how they like blast these things, but I was
Yeah,
already kind of
like
like, what
all
am
the
I looking at?
logos. But yeah, I just heard back that I won't get a screener for it, but
Well, it's coming out soon.
I'm hoping it's going to be at AMC Voorhees this weekend because I'm
Mm.
definitely seeing that Sunday then,
Yeah,
which would
also let
be
me know how
like
that one goes.
yesterday by the time this video releases. So
There you go.
there you go.
People, go watch it. It looks like it's gonna be a freaking trip.
Yep, I'm ready for that trip. So there you go. Those
Yeah.
are some really good picks. There's still a lot of exciting movies to look forward to the rest of this year. So
That's the thing. And like I was trying to look at some other stuff than just my usual, like, oh, okay, like I went to see Candyman, which was a scary movie, so I saw the trailer for Antlers, which looked pretty good. I'm
oh,
big into like monster spoopy things and stuff in the woods
it's like
stuff.
some deep dark Wendigo Native American folklore kind of stuff, and
Mm.
it's from the director of was it Scott Cooper? He directed films like Hostels, which is a
Oh.
great western, which
Hmm.
has Haley's favorite actor in it, Christian Bale.
Yeah, what a star.
Sarcastic to the max right there. But and it's also Guillermo del Toro produced it.
See,
I'm
that's what catches my attention.
Yes, I'm excited for that because that was supposed to come out, I think, last October or something like
Okay.
that. So, like, I'm ready. I'm excited for that. It looks really creepy.
And Guillermo del Toro is like the only director who can give me like bizarre, large CGI monsters that I just immediately accept.
Or they could be practical effects and be really impressive too. Like Pan's Labyrinth. Like,
I was gonna say, I didn't even know that those were practical effects, but it doesn't surprise me. Well, that guy was that, and whoever got to do that, I'm jealous of them actually, because that would be the best acting
it
role of your
was
life.
Doug Jones, who also was the Fawn. Well, Doug Jones
What a
is like
versatile man.
well, the thing is, Doug Jones plays so many of those kinds of characters in movies because, like, he was Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies. He's the Fawn
Ah.
and the Pale Man.
Uh,
He's a big creature actor, or like he plays aliens. I think he's on Star Trek Discovery
how do I
most
become a
recently.
creature actor? First of all, I am a hobbit by nature. You people can't see me, but I'm only 4'11". So like I was born a hobbit, missed that thing. I could be like, I don't know, tiny alien.
Well, we already know who we could be together
That's a good
because we're Rocket and Groot.
point.
So there you go.
Forever.
Forever.
When it comes to Broadway, we will audition.
Yes. Well, you know what's funny is they released the Hawkeye trailer, the new Disney Plus show, and
Mm.
inside the MCU, there's a Steve Rogers musical coming to Broadway.
Oh
And I'm
my
just
God.
like, so there could be a Guardians of the Galaxy show
I
on
mean, why
Broadway.
not? I think the Guardians one would be way more fun. Better soundtrack by far.
Yes, that would be a lot of fun. It would probably be a pop musical, like a jukebox
Yeah,
musical, like just all the
exactly.
songs from the 70s.
Exactly.
Now, I know this is a hot button question because a lot of people hate thinking about remakes and stuff
Mm.
like that because a lot of times they just ruin them. But Haley, what's one movie that you wish would be remade?
Well, a movie that they ruined the first time, which is Suicide Squad #1. And they did make another Suicide Squad movie. So they proved that they can do it. And
Mhm.
honestly, I would be a fan of them literally just pretending that first one didn't exist, Keep all the same actors. Actors were good. Just do it again. Do it again and do it different. Change it. Make the plot not the way it was. Include more Jared Leto, please, God. And
well, honestly, they probably should have just made the Joker the villain to begin with, because Enchantress sucked. What the hell was her brother's name? I don't even remember. Big giant gold blob guy.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Incubus. That was it.
Yeah.
I don't know why a part of my brain is dedicated to being, because I was going to say Diablo, but that was the
guy who had a very bizarre sympathetic arc.
Yeah, who then turns into a giant, flaming skeleton creature, and then fights Incubus in a giant CGI blob fight.
Yes.
At the end of the movie.
And does this redemption situation, even though he already burnt up his entire family for some reason.
Yeah.
There were a lot of questionable things.
That's redeemable, right?
I mean,
it's interesting because I loved the Suicide Squad. I thought that was a crazy fun time. There's a part of me that still wants to see a really hard edge, dark Suicide Squad movie, because obviously James Gunn does James Gunn, and that's the Suicide Squad was going to be a James Gunn movie. I do want to see a dark, edgy Suicide Squad, because apparently that's what it was supposed to be. And then Guardians happened, and then they were like, let's throw in jokes, guys, and let's put Bohemian Rhapsody in the trailer. Yeah. And there you go. That's an interesting pick, especially since it's not even a remake. It's supposed to be a kind of sequel that James Gunn made, because they have some characters in it. But I would definitely be down for that Suicide Squad.
I'm just mad because it had so much potential. It had such good actors I really like, and honestly, the characters themselves, I think, had a lot of potential. The whole movie was just so mismanaged. And I'm not an expert at all, but I can tell you, I could go through just thing after thing after thing that was just wrong about that. All of it. But rule number one is always, if Jared Leto is in the movie, there needs to be as much Jared Leto as possible. That's a rule. Well,
because there's 5 seconds of him just randomly popping up throughout the movie. And I'll admit it, I was a huge fan of Will Smith in that movie. Yeah. I really enjoyed Deadshot a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's just nope. And then he just disappears because I guess they couldn't get Will
replace
Smith
him with Idris Elba, who I also love, but
shh, they didn't replace him.
Okay, whatever you say.
It's just just from out of context, it just seems really weird that they replaced the lead Black character in the movie, who happens to be a hitman who could also shoot really, really well. I'm just
yeah.
Did they think we wouldn't notice that? I don't know.
Both incredible actors who deserve their own character.
Exactly. Now, I know the first time I interviewed everybody, it was what their earliest memory of going to the movies was. Mm-hmm. But Haley, what's your fondest memory of going to the movies?
That's easy. When I was young, Lord of the Rings came out, and I saw all 3 of them in theaters, and I was that kid who thank you to my parents for letting me see those movies despite them being kind of violent. I was 2001. I mean, I was 6, 7, and
I was 10, so
they still let me go. And so I saw the first one and loved it. And so then just that feeling of being in the second one and the third one, I remember being in the theater, and I remember being excited days in advance, we're going to Lord of the Rings, there's another one, oh my God. And just being so it's almost an irreplaceable feeling of excitement that I don't think you can fabricate as an adult, but I can still remember what that felt like. It was Christmas morning. Like there was nothing better than sitting in that chair being like, I'm about to watch another Lord of the Rings movie. There's
Yeah.
another one. So those were by far my most fond memories and very special.
I know I definitely have told this story on the show before talking to others about Lord of the Rings, but I feel like I have to tell my story about Fellowship again, seeing as my aunt took my brother and I to go see it. She didn't check the runtime, and we had a basketball game because Ethan and I were on the same basketball team at the point, and we left after 2 hours. Like Frodo
Wait,
got stabbed, and that was
they
the last
she
thing that
took
I
her
saw.
out? She took you out? What? I
I
would have been like,
was
the game doesn't matter.
I was so upset. And I came into school on Monday for my classmate to tell me I miss a giant fire demon with a sword and a whip and everything. And I'm like, what? And I found out there was a whole other hour to the movie. And I remember seeing Two Towers with my mom who didn't see the first one. So
Who are these people? Why are they walking?
there's so many, like, who are all these people? But like, I loved it. And Return of the King was one of the most special movie moments. And my only time I've ever played hooky from school
Ooh.
was my mom let me skip school when Return of the King came out on DVD. And I went out and bought it and watched it immediately.
That's amazing.
I was in I guess because I was 12 when the actual movie came out. So I was 13 probably when the DVD came out. So I was in like sixth or seventh grade. Yeah. So like I skipped school and got to watch that.
My parents bought me a life-sized cardboard cutout of Orlando Bloom as Legolas that I had in my room for approximately a decade.
Look at
He
that.
stared at me as I slept every night for like.
Did you also have a Will Turner one?
No. Nah. I mean, like, look, I love those movies, but I would have chosen Johnny Depp.
There you go. My favorite character was always, so Barbossa is probably my favorite character, except then there's Davy Jones.
I was going to say Davy. I was literally going to be like, unless maybe Davy Jones.
Davy Jones. And we're going to talk about it later. I'm actually going to save that because we're going to talk about some music and why that's so significant to me. But we'll get there. Now, my next question is, what is a film? So like, I know we've had those moments where it's like we've seen a movie and it really disappointed us. I'm thinking, I know you really enjoyed it, but I remember taking you to see Chappie. That movie made me so angry. I wanted a mulleted Hugh Jackman in his shorty shorts to win, and he was a piece of crap.
It's hard.
So, but like, sometimes you see a movie that you just feel like this is going to be garbage, and then all of a sudden it's like, I really like this. So, what's a movie that you felt like really exceeded your expectations?
So, this gives me an opportunity to talk about a movie that I absolutely love. That was definitely like this, and I'll do one in the theater. And one that came at home.
Okay.
But the one in the theater, like there was a point when I had that AMC subs thing where I would just go to movies like any old time. It killed a Tuesday night. Yeah. And it was only for that reason that I saw Bad Times at El Royale. And like, oh man, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just sat down. It was a movie. It had a decent cast. And like, whoa, that movie is incredible. And like, people don't talk about it enough. Like when people are like, what's a good movie? I'm like,
number 3 movie of 2018 still.
Oh man, that movie blew my mind. Incredible.
And I have
Go watch that movie, people.
Trying to see where I have I have a 4K of it, I'm pretty sure. Bad Times. Yep, I have the 4K like sitting up there. And
it's special.
I think a lot of people just thought this is just like a Tarantino ripoff kind of thing. But
it was better than the Tarantino movie that came out. I'll tell you, with brutal honesty.
I love Bad Times at the El Royale. That cast kills it. Jeff Bridges kills it. Cynthia
Always.
Erivo, that was like a star-making performance for her. And then Chris Hemsworth and his abs, though. Like,
But see, Jeff Bridges has done this to me before because I had the same feeling with, and I'm not someone who watches Westerns, like at
mhm.
all. I don't care about them. But my dad randomly took me to see True Grit, the one with Jeff Bridges that
Yes,
came out. And I make people watch that movie on the regular. Like that movie is incredible as well. And like has no business being that good. I love it. It's like an instant classic. Like I saw it, we were like crying, like with laughter and how bizarre the parts of it were.
that is Jess's favorite film.
It is so good.
And I read the novella, and that John Wayne version is like such just like this is just John Wayne, and like everything else about it's like really iffy. But like the Coen brothers killed it, and Jeff
Chef's kiss.
Cohen's, Deacons, Bridges, got it, just nailed
Got
it.
it.
And it's such a great cast, and even like Matt Damon as a Texas Ranger is just like as you're not LaBeef.
We quote that movie on like my dad will just randomly be like, I got my bear skin.
Dude.
It's
Because
just like,
how can't you? That is one of the most random, fantastic minor characters in any movie. It's like, you're not LaBeef. And he's just like, you know,
you can
it's
have his
cold
teeth.
out, but at least I have my bear skin. And
That's a Halloween costume out. Easy, easy, perfect Halloween costume for
there's so many
anybody.
great minor characters in that, like the voice actor of John Redcorn from King of the
Mm.
Hill is the Native American who gets hanged at the beginning of the movie.
I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, because you hear him for like 2 seconds before, and they won't even let him say anything, and they just throw the sack over his head. And he's also from Parks and Rec.
Oh
There's
yeah.
what is it? There's two things that white people love. Rachel Ray. And I forget what the other thing is, but like there's that, and there's like one thing that white people are afraid of is curses. And just all the little minor characters, but like yeah, Bad Times at the El Royale though, like John Hamm and Lewis Pullman, like the bellhop, that
Mm-hmm.
his character, like that revelation about him was like, holy crap. Did
There's
not see
just
that
like a
coming.
lot. I mean, the whole thing, like literally from the second it starts until the second it ends, you're like in your like on the edge of your seat the whole time. Music incredible. It's
Yes.
just got this like grandeur to it that is
Mhm.
very hard to manufacture. Like you can't force something like that.
Oh, and that was one of my favorite trailers because I remember it like it's starting off with like all the music from the time, and then it gets creepy. At
Mm.
the very end, it was like that creepy horror movie, like no, 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 no. And then like the neon lights of the El Royale just pop up. Like, dang, I need to see this movie. And I saw that movie and I loved it. So there you go. What's
Yeah.
the movie that you exceeded your expectations that you watched at home?
I watched Memento by myself on Netflix when Netflix like first became a streaming thing, and I was
Mhm.
alone in my basement, just some high school kid with nothing to do, and I don't know why I clicked on it, and it's my favorite movie.
There you go.
Period. End of sentence. My favorite movie. Like I've seen it so many times, and I just remember like sitting there and being like, what is this movie that's happening to me? Like, I don't even think I thought anything during the entire movie. Then it ended, and I'm like, what just happened to me? Like, what
Oh,
just happened? This
you
is
know,
free? I could just watch this?
you know what would be perfect? So I'm going to be watching Scorsese movies
Hmm.
until June for
Okay.
my other show because there's just so many of them.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to remember because, like, if you're down for any, I'd be more than happy to have you on. But inevitably, when Christopher Nolan gets voted as my next one,
Yes.
we have to do Memento together.
Oh, I mean,
because like I don't think anybody's going to beat Christopher Nolan the next time that I do my vote on my Instagram page.
Tell me when it's happening, and I'll just fix the vote.
The crazy thing is, if timing's right, I might be seeing you at that time.
That's so true.
And I could potentially do it live.
I mean, honestly, there's so many good Christopher Nolan movies, but that is like truly, I mean, nostalgia aside, just like talk about like what is like the best movie. Memento. Memento is the best movie.
There you go.
Everyone has their opinions, but that is mine. And I have seen that movie. The first time I saw it, this was a long time ago now. Ancient history, and it has not changed.
It got its theatrical release 20 years ago this year.
That does not surprise me.
Because I did one of my first The Wasteland Vintage Roadshow articles for Sky Magazine on Memento.
Nice.
It went like Lord of the Rings, Fargo, Memento.
So, well, I feel like I've been talking to you about Memento as long as we've known each other, so I've probably slowly been eating at your conscience.
Well, like I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, and like I love all of his films except for, well, I don't love Following, and I don't love Insomnia. I really, really like Insomnia a lot. Tenet went a little bridge too far for me. But like that, like from Batman Begins up until Dunkirk, and then tack on Memento beforehand. So like all of that's just like I love it. And Memento was, I didn't watch that in cinema class in high school. Had no expectations. I'm like, what is this movie? And because like I watched Apocalypse Now in that class. I watched a couple of Hitchcock films. I saw Cool Hand Luke for the first time in that class. But like Memento, that was a thing. I also hated Raging Bull when I watched it in that class. But like now I've watched it as an adult and have different feelings about it. You know, I don't think 16-year-old Shane really got Scorsese. So there you go.
I mean, honestly, like whatever age I was when I first saw that movie, I was blown away by it, but I ended up watching it like ever since. I mean, many times, and it just keeps getting more interesting over time. Like as you keep watching it, it gets more interesting. Even when you know what's going to happen, like it allows you, like every single scene, there's something there. Yeah. So it's the perfect movie for a film class. And if you're just trying to like blow your mind and you have not seen that movie, just do it to yourself. Yeah, because it's incredible.
Now, we talked a little earlier about making a remake. Now, how about adapting something, which I think gets people equally as upset, because I think a lot of people have read some books that they absolutely loved, and then somebody ruined it by turning it into a movie. But what is a written work that you would love to see adapted as a film?
So I think there are a couple different ways that I would go about this, but I thought about it, and I've been on a kick for quite some time now, and I think I've told you about this before, but I'm reading all the people who won a Nobel Prize in Literature in my lifetime, just as like this was one of my COVID things. And so I've read some very interesting stuff, and I feel like, you know, a lot of those things I would not want to make into a movie. Not all of them I even liked, but, you know, glad I read almost all of them. But, you know, there's one play, which I think plays automatically could be movies, but it's a short little play. It's by an Italian man named Dario Fo. Yes. And the movie is called The Accidental Death of an Anarchist. You can read the play in about like an hour. It is not long, but it's steeped in like a time period where there was a great amount of distrust in the state because in many ways, like, it's the time period where there was, attempts by the government to sort of influence how people thought and to sway public opinion in one direction or another. And so the play is very much a product of that time. But at the same time, like, it is still relatable and it's very like dynamic and bizarre. And I would love to see it played out in movie form. I think there must be screenings of the play itself, but I'd love to see it as a movie just because it's very quick-witted and I think it could be adapted and turned into something even that would be, because the underlying thing is obviously relatable, right? Like media trying to convince you of a certain thing. It's like the very basic plot is there's a bombing and the local police want to pin it on a certain group. And so they're trying to do that, but there's this one very unpredictable character who sort of turns it all upside down, and makes the folks in the law kind of look like total idiots. And it's never not funny.
I don't know why this particular filmmaker popped in my head, but I can imagine like an Armando Iannucci version of this play who made The Death of Stalin. And
yeah, definitely.
And I'm just like
that type of like very, very nuanced thing going on there.
Like there's stuff's like working on a whole bunch of different levels here because you're just like, this is silly, but this is so dark and pointed about what this is talking about.
Exactly.
And I just want to see Peter Capaldi be in it.
I mean,
have you ever watched In the Thick of It?
I don't think I have, no.
So it's a British TV show. It's about like the British government and bureaucracy. And Peter Capaldi's in it, who was like the cranky Doctor Who, most recent like cranky Doctor Who before Jodie Whittaker got made into Doctor Who. But he was also the thinker in the Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay, yeah, gotcha.
So he's just obnoxiously Scottish and just throws out the most pointed, biting insults at people. And I could just imagine
Actually, he would be a good anarchist.
Yes. Let's make this. We're gonna make this happen. There we go.
Yeah. So there's that. It's a play. And so I feel like that's kind of cheating because like it's easy to make a play into a movie. You need tact though, right? And this play is short, but it's a heavy hitter, like if you are paying attention to what it's trying to say, which it's not even that hard to know what it's trying to say. But it's a lot of fun. And if you have like an hour and you can somehow find it, I couldn't even find it at my library. I had to buy it, I think, on thrift books or something. But
interesting.
It was a good time. And then like I was cackling. I was at home and my dad like saw me reading it. He's like, what the heck is that? And then he literally like picked it up and read it like after I put it down because he's like, I gotta know what is going on with this like little tiny book. But anyway, so there's that. And then there was this other one that I read by a French author named Patrick Modiano. And I'll just give you the premise. I feel like this would make for a great movie. It did not make for the best book because it had one of those like artsy cliffhanger endings that I'm not into when I'm like trying to get somewhere with something.
Well, I think it's hard with a book because like you put so much like time into it. You're just like,
yeah, it's not even that long of a book to be honest, but it's just like, why are we here? Why are we doing this, Patrick? What's going on? I'm not going to give anything away in case anyone wants to read it, but it's called Missing Person. And the premise is there's this man who basically like turns up somewhere, does not know who he is, but he's taken in by a private investigator. And they work together over the years and become like partners. But then when the private investigator is ready to retire, he says, look, I'm going to give you all of my connections, my whole office to use at your disposal. I'm done. But if you want to find out who you are, have at it. And the book is him just trying to trace the tiny hints of clues that he had to find out who he is.
Interesting.
And it's not super long, deeply psychological. But there's so much potential. There's so much potential to that idea, right? Like,
I'd see it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, the book, again, it just ended up being a little artsier than I think it had to be, but the dude won a Nobel Prize, so I guess he appealed to the right people with what he was doing. I'm kind of like, look, I get it. I get where you're going with this, but finish it. And so, anyway, it would make for a great movie. Someone would have to tweak the ending a little bit.
Take some artistic license.
Yes.
There you go.
Exactly.
Now, shifting a little bit into, I mentioned one particular trailer that I loved earlier, but you know, these are what sell you on movies, right? So, Haley, what's your favorite movie trailer?
Us. I mean,
I got 5 on it.
I got 5. That music, like, okay, I just watched it last night because I was thinking about the questions you gave me, and
there you go.
Song stuck in my head. It gets stuck in my head for days, and it's so like perfect. It runs through the movie. Like, so obviously, you know, it's pretty typical for movie trailers to just have this like canned epic music, which like is fun and makes for good trailers, but I just appreciate the way that they took that music, and it's haunting and it like sticks in your head, and then you see the movie and it is an integral weaving part of the soundtrack throughout the whole movie, connected to the climax of the movie. So you're like, you almost, I don't know, there's something satisfying about that. But oh
like
man,
when I
yeah,
watched the Annihilation trailer and the actually appeared in the movie, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, right. They're good because, you know, we've all seen trailers that were better than the movie.
Yes.
Prometheus. Sick trailer, man. Not sick movie. Not good enough movie.
I loved it the first time I watched it, and that definitely was one of those movies where I'm just like, but wait a minute.
But let's think about it. What
well,
really
wait
happened?
A second. And then the more you think about it, you're just like, oh no. Stop thinking about it.
It's not a terrible movie, but it's just not, I don't know. The trailer got me hyped.
Yeah.
But no, us. I mean, I know there are mixed reviews on that, but I am squarely in the Us was an awesome movie to me.
Me too.
And I think the trailer really hyped me up. And so then the movie was actually worth the hype, which is part of it, right? Because a good trailer that leads you to a sucky movie doesn't stick in your mind as a good trailer. Like, I can name other good trailers that were like really good, but then I'm disappointed in the movie. But that one, that's why it's probably my number one. And I am a sucker for movie soundtracks, which we're going to talk about. So a good soundtrack that really sticks with you.
Us is still sitting at my number 11 film of 2019. And that was a competitive year of movies.
Yeah,
because there was some great movies in 2019. And then 2020 happened. And, you know.
It all went downhill from there.
It all went downhill from Cats. Cats came out.
That was an apocalyptic event.
Cats caused COVID. Just like punishment for us making that movie.
Never should have happened.
Nope. Now, Haley, what's your favorite use of like an actual song in a movie?
It's hard because like I'm gonna say Lion King, and that's just not the right answer, but I'm gonna say it because it's how I feel. Like when I was a kid, I was a sentimental child who
Hmm.
grew into a sentimental adult. But my first like memories of being a sentimental person were like I would watch Lion King like basically every week because like when you're little, growing up in the 90s, for all you Gen Z people listening, like we had like 8 VHS tapes and you just watch them over and over again. And like children can handle repetition. But I'm not lying to you when I say that every single time Simba takes his place as the king of Pride Rock and that song is playing, I cried every time. Like I'm like 5 years old and I'm like sobbing. Like what? This doesn't make any sense. But I was moved, right? And the music is moving. And
Hmm.
it's almost triggering. Like if I hear that song, I need to like think about something else actively, or I'll like go back to that like sentimental place. It's just bare emotion. And that whole soundtrack is just
Yeah.
very beautiful.
I would like to state for the record, though, that Haley is not lying about how much she loves the Lion King.
Yeah,
There you
not at
go.
all. I'm a big outspoken fan.
I am a big you know what's funny? I'm a huge Disney villain song fan. So
They're good
like
ones.
Be Prepared is top notch, just like top notch villain song, like goose stepping Nazi hyenas
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and Jeremy Irons just killing it. But like within that, nothing touches for me Hellfire. Cause like
Mm,
that from Hunchback of Notre Dame, that's dark. That's just
yeah.
like, how's this a kid's movie at some point?
A lot of the movies we grew up with had adult themes. And then like Hans Zimmer is just a freaking mastermind with stuff like that. Like I remember, when I could first start converting like MP3s and stuff and I would look up
Uh-huh.
movie soundtracks. That's when I realized that like all the good stuff was by him. I'm like, who's this man?
That's why we just throw on Hans Zimmer like playlists on YouTube. Just
Like
want to listen to
literally
music.
all the good stuff, except that I am admittedly a Shyamalan, an old-timey Shyamalan fan, and James Newton
Newton
Howard is
Howard.
also real good. But no,
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer, like you can't top him. All the good stuff.
Well, we're just going to segue now into what's that score? Like, if you're going to throw in any score, what's that score going to be, Haley?
Yeah, so I mean like there's just like the whole Disney playlist. I think if I'm in a certain mood, but I'm also somebody who has a great appreciation for like stuff that gets you amped. And
Mm-hmm.
the Into the Spider-Verse playlist is awesome. Like there's some bops on that.
Daniel Daniel Pemberton, who did the score for that, is like I remember sitting and watching that King Arthur Legend of the Sword movie from Guy Ritchie and just
Mm,
thinking like, dang, this is a really cool soundtrack for this movie that nobody's going to remember tomorrow.
yeah.
But like and like he does the score for Into the Spider-Verse and like especially like the Prowler with all that like intense like dubstep kind of stuff
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
and not like itsy bitsy spider dubstep from like Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, like they go there and they've got some really good featured artists.
Yeah,
Um,
inside and Into the Spider-Verse made me listen to Post Malone, so there you go.
right. And like Black Panther is the same way, like all of Kendrick Lamar's
Mhm.
stuff. I mean, like so there's the songs that it's like, okay, I listen to this like it's on the radio, but then there's, the composers, and I do
Yeah.
really like Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. A movie that we're gonna say never existed, but that did have, I think, an incredible soundtrack that I still listen to this day was that horrible, horrible Airbender Avatar movie by Night
Yeah,
Shyamalan.
because I've never actually watched The Last Airbender, but I've heard the score and
Beautiful.
yeah, and just like how did this music play over such trash?
And
Trash.
I remember like in the movie being like, I'm only listening to the music. Like I'm not paying attention because the plot is just not there. The acting is really bad. The effects are not good, but the music is really good. And I just remember being like, oh, just the soundtrack is all I'm getting from this.
So I was on our podcast for Sif Pop yesterday. We were recording, and the new Rick and Morty season is so embedded in my brain right now. And every time I won't talk about something bad, I'm just like, trash. Love trash, trash, trash. Love trash. I don't know if you've watched the new Rick and Morty season or if you've ever watched Rick and Morty.
I've watched a couple episodes and
there's this like
I can just imagine
trash worm thing that comes in and like eats up all of Rick's trash. And he's like, trash. And it's just like, yeah, thinking about like a decent chunk of like Shaman's filmography. Trash.
Literally. I mean, it's
After Earth.
We just talk about it didn't exist.
No.
Only the music existed. And it's beautiful.
Yes. And it's crazy because it's like, you mentioned Black Panther, like Ludwig Göransson's score wins an Oscar, kills it with that score. And one of my favorite themes of any TV show ever is The Mandalorian. And Ludwig Göransson's like, all I have to hear is ooh, and I'm just like, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to sit down here. I'm like, I'm gonna watch all this whole season over.
Yeah, that's so true. Because that's the thing, like a good show, that intro music can just like put you in a place. Like I was talking about I loved Dark, Netflix's Dark, which if you have not seen that, you gotta see.
I am in season 2.
You're in the thick of it. It is insane. I love it. But that music, it was kind of hard to find the theme song, but I did. And it just like puts me in a place. Like I can't listen to it just anytime. It has to be like a certain time and a certain mood. But like that show did that to me.
I have 2 theme songs. That one is, so I was just talking about this yesterday, but sitting and watching, because Many Saints in Newark comes out this coming weekend. And I remember watching the trailer for the first time, like, this looks like a cool mob movie. And then the woke up this morning on a wrong end of a gun. I'm just like, that Sopranos theme song kicked in. I'm like, oh my God, I need to watch this movie right now. And it was just like one of those moments where it's just like, holy crap. It just like sucked me in. I'm like,
they used psychology on you.
I'm like, I've only watched the first 2 seasons of The Sopranos so far, and I'm just like sucked in. Also, it was funny because I was on the podcast with Aaron, who hosts it, and Heath, one of the other writers. And Aaron's like, so we got our Jersey boy here to talk about Many Saints in Newark. I'm like, yep, Italian American from New Jersey. I'm an expert. So, but the other one, so for my birthday, Netflix is doing a very bold thing and releasing that live action Cowboy Bebop.
Oh.
Comes out on my birthday with John Cho.
Oh my goodness. Happy birthday to you.
Yes. And when they released that trailer of just doing a live action version of the intro with Tank, I'm just like, because like that theme song to Cowboy Bebop is like, yes, like that gets you pumped, and they better not ruin it. Like, better not ruin it. But we'll see.
I hope for your sake that they don't, but live action anime normally does not go well.
Death Note.
We don't talk about that either.
You ruined having Willem Dafoe in that movie. Like, he was perfect. Pointless. And you make speaking of trash, because like I hadn't watched the show first. I watched the movie.
Oh, really?
Death Note, and I'm like, this is bad. And then
I didn't watch the movie.
And then I watched the show. I'm like, that was really bad. Like, how'd they ruin this that bad?
I know. It's really like, I mean, I'm not even an anime person, but like I've seen Death Note, I've seen Attack on Titan, and it's like there are things you just don't mess with. Like,
well, it's funny because I was chatting with Chelsea Stevens from Rider.
He would have strong opinions about this.
And I was chatting with her about live action anime, and we're just like, Death Note, nope, no. Now, my last question for you, Haley,
For so many
is
reasons.
what is the one thing that you wish movies would stop doing?
There are a number of things, but I'm gonna focus my ire on the Fast and Furious movies. Just stop them. Just stop them. I've seen two of them, and that was enough. Like, stop it.
So,
Stop it. Just make a different movie. You can just start over with a different cast and have it be about cars, but
Hobbs
just
and Shaw.
stop making. Yeah, that was actually like half decent. That was
I'm,
like fun.
I'm just going to keep
Stop
watching Hobbs
making
and
those
Shaw
movies.
movies.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. I don't understand anymore. I never really understood. But the thing that upsets me about it is that people get so defensive about them. They're like, well, no, those movies aren't good. They never were. Like, I can accept a certain number of like, oh, we're just playing along, right? Like I watched the Transformers movies just like everybody else until they introduced dinosaurs, and then I was like, I'm not doing that. But
I want them to make like an actual like Dinobot
for
movie.
like three or four movies, that's a lot of movies as it is
I've
to
seen
just
all 5 of the like. Actually, no, I skipped Age of Extinction. I jumped right to Last Night. So I saw the first 3 and then the 5th Transformers movies and then Bumblebee. Bumblebee was really sweet. I enjoyed that movie.
see, you know what? I didn't watch Bumblebee because I was so sick of it all by the time that one came out. And people kept telling me that's a good movie. And I'm like, I can't. I'm burnt out of Transformers already.
I
Sorry.
remember all the rumors going around. People wanted John Cena to turn out to be G.I. Joe in it. But he was just John Cena being like, look, I'm a big muscle military man. But
Yeah.
I've seen most like I've sat through all of the Fast and the Furious, like the first movie.
Hmm.
I saw Too Fast, Too Furious.
Hmm.
I saw Tokyo Drift.
That's the one I saw first. And then
And
someone made me watch the first one.
and then I had never watched any of them until I went to go Fate of the Furious in theaters because I started reviewing everything. And I'm
Mm.
sitting there, I'm like, I didn't think I would need like a cheat sheet to keep track of the lore and the world building in a Fast and Furious movie, but you do. And like
Really?
sitting there watching F9, F9, I'm just like, who are these people? Why is Cardi B here?
Oh,
Like,
Cardi
what's
B's in it?
yeah, for like 2 seconds.
I wouldn't
And
even know who she was. Like
I'm just sitting there like, what? I'm like, what movie is this person from? Who's this? What's going on here? And then they went to space and I lost it. I was done. I'm just like, they basically were insane clown posse. Magnets, how do they work? And they were using magnets in the most absurd ways. I'm just like, what is this movie? And there's only 2 more.
see the fact like I don't even know how many there have been. I lost
9.
track long ago. It's too many. It's too many. Like don't it's a waste. I
But
don't
it's
know.
all
Like
about
do something else.
family.
It's long since not been about that. I don't know what it's
Vin
about.
Diesel literally said it like every 5 seconds in F9. So,
Okay.
because he's like going toe to toe with his estranged brother, John
Uh,
Cena, who gives
okay.
all. Yeah, right.
You were there, I wasn't. I'll take your word for it. Just can't anymore.
And I feel like Vin Diesel is a charismatic vacuum.
I mean,
And
like it worked in Chronicles of Riddick. Like that's his perfect character.
no, I think Groot's his perfect character, to be perfectly honest.
Touche.
I am Groot. And just watching Vin Diesel do that. So I try to figure out what's more entertaining, watching him just say I am Groot over and over again in front of a microphone, or how into it Bradley Cooper gets being Rocket.
Oh, I'm
Watching
sure that's
him.
amazing.
Oh, it's hilarious. And him laughing and getting so into it's hilarious. And good for Bradley Cooper. He's in Guillermo del Toro and Paul Thomas Anderson's new movies coming out this fall.
Nice. Oh yeah, I noticed that he was gonna be in the Guillermo del Toro one.
Yeah, Nightmare Alley. And then
That
they
looks good.
just released the trailer for Licorice Pizza, which is
Yeah, I saw that was coming out, but I didn't see the trailer.
that's Paul Thomas Anderson movie. So who did Magnolia and Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread. I'm down. You know, it's PTA. PTA did well for himself during my tournament to figure out who my next director was going to be. So maybe he'll take down Christopher Nolan.
No. Phantom Thread was weird. That was a weird movie.
That's grown on me, but it is a demented love story. Like, that's just like...
Yes, demented is the right word.
Yes, and...
Look, and Daniel Day-Lewis is a genius, right? Like, I respect him. I
don't think anybody can capture the pure frustration of a man being perturbed by somebody buttering toast like he did in that movie. There was contempt there.
Oh yeah,
and it was A+ acting, but you know,
one of the weirdest things.
I would have given him the Oscar again. Sorry, Gary Oldman, but you know, Gary Oldman won it for Winston Churchill, so it's okay, I guess. But so those are all my questions for you, Haley. Now you get to ask the Wasteland Reviewer a question. So what would you like to ask me?
Yeah. So, okay, I have a question because this is something that I mean, it's like a theater specific thing, and hopefully we will get a chance to do this more again. But
Yes.
I was thinking when you had asked me about like my favorite experience in a theater, and of course I had to give like Loader because that's the right answer.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that wanted to be like, oh man, one time I went into the Dolby Theater and I watched The Nun, and that movie just it's so much scary. Like it's not that scary of a movie, but it's like really freaking scary when everything's loud. Like loud equals scary. Like it's true. And that ended up being a way better movie than it had a right to be because I was in the Dolby Theater.
Until they made that, oh my God, that has one of the worst lines in the history of cinema when the nun's like, what are you going to do, Frenchman? It's like, I'm French Canadian. And I'm like, yeah, what?
The movie's not that good. It's not that good. It's just it was loud and I'm telling you, Dolby made that movie what it was for me. And I had a different experience with that movie that I can't compare with other people because I saw it in Dolby. So what I want to know is, what is the best movie? Okay, well, I don't know. Like, if you've seen a certain movie in Dolby that like made it special, or if you could have seen a certain movie in Dolby.
So I will tell you about my favorite Dolby experience because I saw Glass in a Dolby cinema. That wasn't it. I left that movie irrationally angry.
As you should have, regardless of where you saw it.
Yeah. I also saw I saw Predator, the newest one, in an IMAX theater, which that also was trash. I'm just like, oh my God. I'm just like,
I didn't see it.
Shane Black. But I saw Mission Impossible Fallout in a Dolby cinema. And I remember sitting there, the one scene, because, you know, Tom Cruise is in it. He has to drive a motorcycle somewhere.
I see.
And he has to run. So when he's driving his motorcycle through Paris, I felt like I was on the motorcycle with him and the car zooming by me. I'm like, holy crap. And it was insane. And that was crazy. And it's interesting because it's like, there's a couple of different kinds of theaters. Like you could see IMAX. I remember seeing Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers in IMAX, and it literally shook my insides.
Right.
Like I'm like
the scale of it.
Yeah, like the sound, like literally shook my insides. I went. Oh, if I could see anything in an IMAX or a Dolby theater, it would be Mad Max Fury Road,
I
because
could have guessed that.
I was like, my pulse was racing sitting in a normal theater because how intense and adrenaline rush that movie is. Two of the coolest experiences I ever had. I wish I wasn't sitting in the front row. It was a bad situation that happened that day that led to that, but I saw the Hateful Eight 70 millimeter print.
Oh,
And
cool.
it was gorgeous. And I also saw Dunkirk in 70 millimeter print. And
there's a Dolby movie for you.
oh my God, people had to walk out of the IMAX version because it was too intense.
That's true. I mean, that movie is.
I would have seen that in Dolby. That would have shaken all of my insides out of my body. But like, I also saw Alien Covenant in Cinemark XD, which is basically IMAX. And that was pretty cool. And like, I'm trying to think, because like, I don't do IMAX and stuff like that a whole lot because I'm cheap. And like, I'd rather just, but like with the AMC A list, it's like you just pick, you could go see whatever. But
that's why, and I would have never been like, this is not an ad. I would have never been like, oh, the Dolby difference. But I'm just, the fact that I've had, every time I've seen a movie in Dolby, it was just like a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the fact that like, I'm just saying, if you're going to see a horror movie and you want it to be scary, go to a Dolby theater because loud is scary.
Well,
like, I was very like unsettled by just like the difference in like going from completely quiet to like
it makes me sad because I don't have AMC Hamilton anymore. And that's where they had the Dolby Cinema, they had the IMAX theater. Because like AMC Voorhees, where I generally go, has none of that. It's
really?
It's just like an old school it's AMC Classic. So like they show a lot of indie films and stuff like that, which makes me happy. Sure. But yeah, Fury Road, that would have been so cool.
Maybe someday.
I would like, when that turns 10 years old in 4 years, I will see that when that gets re-released in the theaters.
It's a good one.
As long as we still have theaters.
I think we will.
I don't think they'll ever go like 100% away, but like, we'll see. Montgomery Cinema lives, apparently. And that made me so happy. I occasionally go onto the app to see if they have new show times, and they're back. They didn't die during COVID, which made me happy because that was one of my favorite.
Princeton Theater still around?
The Garden? Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been there since before COVID. And so like, I'll be going to AMC for at least Venom. There'll be carnage this weekend.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. I'm excited to
big
see
CGI noodle fight.
I mean, it's just silly fun.
Oh, it's gonna be a big dumb movie, and that's exactly what I expect from it. And
this is random, but when I just watched it with Brandon recently because he hadn't seen the first Venom, and he was like, it just made me realize I totally forgot that Riz Ahmed was like the villain in that movie.
Yeah, he was Riot.
And I'm like, wait a second, this guy is like really sophisticated and plays like really good nuanced roles in general. And like, what is he doing there? I don't know.
Well, maybe what's Tom Hardy doing there?
I guess that's a good point. But I don't know. Like, I feel like I've seen some interviews with Riz Ahmed, and like a lot of the projects he takes on are very like deep and like
like Sound of Metal.
Yeah, exactly like that. Like learning American Sign Language.
And like Nightcrawler. But like, yeah, Venom.
Yeah, that one was freaky.
Gotta take those paycheck movies though.
Right.
Gotta pay for your house.
I don't hold it against him, okay?
No,
big fan of Riz Ahmed.
And then Tom
seems
Hardy.
Seems like a good dude. But see, Tom Hardy, like that, he like made sense in that movie to me. He's like,
well, he's carrying that movie the best that he can. because just him as Venom, just like, it's a turd in the wind. I'm just like, when I heard that line, I'm just like, nope.
You got to get the 13-year-olds to laugh, okay?
There's other ways they could have made them laugh, and they didn't have to talk about turds in the wind. But, they did. So I'm a little disappointed that they didn't stick with the crazy Cletus Cassidy wig Woody Harrelson had on.
Yeah, he's an interesting pick for...
What, a serial killer?
Not for a serial killer. He works perfectly well in that typecast, in my opinion.
Yeah. But, I was excited that it was Woody Harrelson. I'm like, okay, let's see this.
Yeah, but just being like getting infected and becoming the Venom monster.
Let there be carnage. When they released this title for that, I'm just like, okay. This was really made in 2006. Because that's what it feels like. The first movie felt that way. This felt like when they released Daredevil and Fantastic Four and like all the cheesy versions of Marvel movies. But it is what it is. And one day I'll be back at the Dolby Cinema somewhere, wherever there's one.
You got to aim for it.
Maybe they have one in Boston somewhere.
They do. They have multiple. We got options.
I still want to go to an indie theater in Boston. I want to go like really like art house, like I'm in a city. This is an art house theater kind of thing.
There's a little place called Coolidge Corner Theater. We can go there.
Nice. I remember when we went to go see Arrival up at school when you were at Dartmouth, and that was really cool.
That is, the little theater there is called the Nugget. I didn't know this, so I'm just like putting it out there for people. And in case you don't know it, that movie, which is incredible, is based on a short story that is like somehow better than the movie. Like, not super long, but you know how deep that movie is and like how insane it is. Somehow this short story like goes there, but it's even more interesting. And it didn't take away from it at all that I already knew what was going on, because the guy who writes it, I can't remember his name. I think his last name is Chiang, I think, but I believe he may be a linguist by trade.
Interesting.
And so
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all about like how the way we speak and communicate influences how we perceive the world. And so obviously the linguist in Arrival, but it's a series of short stories. That's one of them. And there are others, and they also have to do with like linguistic stuff. And it's just like really smart people's stuff. I don't know. Whenever when I read it, I felt smart.
When Denis Villeneuve is done doing all of his Dune movies, I'm ready for Dune too. It's coming out soon.
Literally reading it right now.
There you go.
In anticipation, my book is falling apart, but I paused my Nobel Prize people to read Dune because can't go into it without having read it.
I read that a long time ago, probably like middle school or high school, and my body is ready.
I hope they do a good job with it because it's got quite a troubled legacy to overcome.
Yeah, but it's Denis Villeneuve. I'm sure he'll do great. But Haley, thank you for coming on. This is a lot of fun as always, and you'll definitely be at the top of my list for when round 3 happens.
Sounds good. And when we do Christopher Nolan.
Yes. And also, if there's any Scorsese you want to join in on, let me know.
Does he do horror movies? I don't know.
He's never done a horror movie. Well, some of his movies are horrifying, but like not in like a horror type way.
Just invite me to the scariest one.
Shutter Island.
That's actually a good point. That's a great movie too.
I guess that is the closest thing that would be considered.
Also based on a half decent book.
Yes, I read the book and I really loved it.
Same.
I'm tentatively putting you down for be filming at the end of March.
Okay, yeah, why not?
'Cause that's how far in advance this scheduling's going.
I'm glad you're penciling me in.
Of course, you are always welcome. And I appreciate you coming on. And I appreciate all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.